Hello, everyone. Good morning. So, hope everyone's bright and early, had their coffee. We're going to go through everything today together. So, hopefully, everyone got the chance to practice a bit using the exercise book that you've received. Just to kind of answer a couple of questions, so we do have the poll running. If you look at the bottom of your screen, so basically where the all the actions are on the Zoom interface, where you'd click on the Q&A or you'd click on the chat icon next to them, there should be a polling button as well. So that would allow you to add your votes. And so we're just basically running a poll to see if you'd like to have basically once a week, like a 4-hour long session with multiple speakers, or you'd rather split it up in 2 different days. So that way at least you'd have 2 different days of the week that you have different speakers and different trainers presenting. So for anyone who can't see it, I don't know if it might be just a matter of like interface, but we will be launching the same poll on the Facebook group as well. So anyone who's on the group will be able to vote there as well. So until now, we have a pretty strong vote going for twice a week. So we'll see how that ends by the end of our training. I'm gonna start sharing my screen with you. So what you will see on my screen is Oryx, and I'll have on my second screen the same PDF that I've sent you guys with the exercises. So we'll go over that. And if you could all prepare your questions, and we would really appreciate if you don't send too many questions as we're going through the flow. If you could just actually collect them together, each if you are sitting together, then that would be nice if you'd collect all the questions together. If each one is separate, then if you could just send one list of questions, that way we can actually quickly go through those Q&A sessions. And if we have enough time, we'd probably allow as well people to actually ask questions like on voice, like basically actually questions, not just typing them in. So we'll see how the session goes. So we're gonna get started. And just to kind of answer one very common question is the recordings. So if anyone has missed any of the 2 sessions from Tuesday and Wednesday, we will be sending the recordings early next week with all the supplementary videos that we've shown throughout the 3 days, with the PDF as well, with the exercises. And you will see, obviously, you'll have the video with the answer key or the solution key that we'll be doing today. So you'll have all of that documentation submitted to you, and we'll probably as well upload it into the knowledge base so everyone can have access to it at a later stage as well. So again, if anyone has team members that were not able to join at some point, then just tell them not to worry, and they'll definitely be getting a recording of the sessions as soon as we're done processing the videos. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. All right. So I'm just going to look at my PDF. So if you guys have that PDF in front of you, then that would be great. And I'm going to just walk through step by step. I'm going to actually read out the exercise, and we're going to do it one by one. It looks like a lot of people have been practicing on our schedule, so that's really nice to see. So I'm going to start with the first part. So it's a new patient profile. So we're going to schedule the new patient. So again, a patient calls you and they're like, hey, I'd like to take an appointment. So you just start with asking, obviously, for the name. So it's going to be Melina. And I'm going to go for, I don't know, Foster. And since this patient is not a patient of the office, there's no match found. Again, date of birth, if you could take that, that would be much better for the practice. Again, in case you've missed that, the age of the patient will launch the odontogram with the correct dentition, so you'll have the primary versus the permanent teeth on the chart. So that will really, it will really be beneficial. Plus, as well, the software is not going to allow you to go into the clinical module unless there is a date of birth on the patient. So if you are planning to do any notes, if you want to review maybe if the patient is sending you any panel from another office and you want to actually start filling in the exam, then this would be definitely beneficial for you. Obviously, phone number would be useful if you want them to receive a reminder. And then obviously the email address would be for your welcome email. So in your case, you guys have already added that email in here. So I'm just gonna hit create new patient. And so as the exercise goes, so click inside the search box, add the date of birth, email, check new patient, send welcome email, and then click create new patient. So that's what we did. So then we drag and drop the name card from the left side column into the schedule. So just simply drag and drop it into the slot that you want to appoint the patient in. And on the pop-up, this is the new appointment pop-up. You would use the new patient hygiene button. So there's the new patient hygiene, and then there's the regular new patient. So obviously the difference is this one would have the prophy and the cleaning attached to it. So I'm just gonna click on it. And it's going to add my comp exam, the prophy, the bite wings, and the panel. So as the exercise says, a list of procedures will appear. And please note, obviously, that all those icons that you see on your schedule are fully editable. And these are coming from your admin. So you'll be able to add your own shortcuts and remove some of those things that you will not be using. So just to make sure that this does not end up being too busy or clumped up with too many buttons that you'll not use. So just make sure that this is always just what you need in the office. So it says that this patient would not need a panel because they've already taken it previously. So to simply to exclude a procedure from the appointment, you just simply uncheck this box here, and it will actually remove it off the appointment. So once you save, it will only add those 3 selected procedures, and it will exclude the panel from that appointment. So it says that change the appointment duration to 90 minutes. So let's say for whatever reason it's a high-risk patient and you think you're going to need 90 minutes with the patient, that's where you will do it. The status will automatically be set to unconfirmed, so you don't need to worry about this at all. Unless you're giving an appointment, obviously, for a patient for like today or tomorrow and you know for sure that they're confirmed, then you can automatically change it to confirmed from here. But otherwise, it will automatically default to unconfirmed for you. The visit type is something that is very commonly asked about, and the idea of having those 2 different types is to be able to tell when it comes to the dashboard, the potential production of the office, so it splits between provider and hygienist. So since this is a patient that is coming for mostly doctor time, there is a prophy, so don't worry about it. So what the system will do is it will count it as a doctor potential, but that prophy will automatically be flagged under the hygienist. So don't worry about this. And you can obviously always update the hygienist to the right one in here. So that way you don't have to worry about it. When you drop the card into the schedule, always keep in mind is that if you actually have the operatory set up with providers, then it will automatically pick up the provider that's actually working in that column. If you don't have them set up, then it will actually just select the defaults of the system. So I'm going to go ahead and say this is going to be dentist B. This one is not going to happen anyway. And then this is going to be hygienist Kim. So this is my prophy under her. So again, the treatment is meant to just help the system split the potential production in the dashboard. But any appointment that contains any cleaning or perio maintenance or SRP, it will automatically drop. It will be flagged as a recur as well in the back. So don't worry about this. It will keep your recur report accurate. Tags wise, you can see it here. There's the new patient tag that gets automatically added for you, so you don't have to worry about this. And obviously you can add a note and say patient referred from whatever, Dr. X. All right, so and then you hit add. And then you'll have obviously the patient on your schedule. So my patient is Melina Froster. She got the welcome email. She went in, she filled all her information before her appointment. And when she's in, she would actually this icon would pop up. If you click on it, you'll see a list of all the different patients that are ready to be imported in. And this is my patient here. So in my case, because I actually filled it out before adding the patient, you can see that they're unlinked. And this is something that you will see common on your accounts as well. So there are cases where you're going to see your patients linked to each other, and that's when you actually send them a welcome email, and the patient uses that welcome email to actually set up their MyChart account. Versus in my case, I got the link from an external website. So let's say from your practice website or from a private email that you sent the patient. So since it was not a welcome email that was sent from inside the software, it will not be linked to an existing patient. So in this case, you just simply look for the patient. And oops. So my patient is Melina Froster. If you just click on her, it says link to Melina. And then you can see now that link has been associated between the patient from MyChart and the patient in the office. And then you just simply hit the merge button. Once you hit the merge button, it will actually just import everything from MyChart into the patient's chart. So that way you'll have all that information in there. The other way to add a new patient, and just again, if we go over the same sequence that's in the forms. So adding a new patient, there's another way to add a new patient if you happen to be on the patient list. There is the add patient button here, and you'll have the full patient information. So if you already have, let's say, a patient that came in that filled out paperwork, for example, or you had them fill in your own forms before you actually start using Oryx, then you can actually just hit the add patient form and actually fill this all out. So you can come in here and you can say John Froster, let's say J, and date of birth, male. If you want to add an address, you can do that from here. Phone number, status, you have all this information from here. And then if they are a new patient, you can check this, you can keep this checked, or you can uncheck this if this is not a new patient. So if you're manually, let's say, transferring a patient from your older system, you can do that. And you can send welcome email straight from here, and then you hit add patient, and it will add that patient into our patient list. So moving into the next page, that's the first part that we talked about. So it says go to your email address. So you would have gotten an email saying welcome to the office name, and you click start, you set your password, you agree to the privacy and the HIPAA on MyChart, and it allows you to fill in all those forms. So that's something that you would have done yesterday. So you would have seen the flow on MyChart with all your patients. And as we said earlier, once you do fill those forms out, you will get this bubble at the bottom right side of your schedule that will allow you to import the patients that have successfully completed filling out those forms. And as well, you will get an email. So anyone who's been set as an admin for MyChart will get an email as well notifying them that there has been a new patient forms filled out on MyChart. So you'll be, again, notified by email, and as well that bubble will be available for you. You can see Melina Froster right now. She has her general dental history, perio, bio, functional, and dentofacial risks, the ASA, and the medical overall risk as well associated to her. And she does have a medical alert because of her gastric reflux allergy and calcium deficiency. So this is coming from, again, all the information that filled out on MyChart got imported once I merged in Melina from MyChart into my office realm. The other way to actually import your patients, so for example, if you find yourself on the patient list instead of the schedule, you have access to the same import button. So if you click on the import patient, it will give you the same exact list of the patients that have been filling out their forms on MyChart. So again, if you find yourself on the schedule, then you can do it from there. Or if you log in and you find yourself on the patient list, you can always just click that import patient button, and it will as well give you the same exact list that we saw on the schedule earlier. So we're going to start with the initial visit. So we're actually on page 5 if anyone's actually trying to keep up with the PDF file. So initial visit. And on the initial visit, we're starting with a pre-appointment checklist. So first of all, so again, on the left side, you have the pre-appointment checklist in here. So we did import the history already. The patient, does the patient have any medical records or x-rays or anything that they've sent over? In my case, I'm just going to say not applicable. appointment reminder has been sent out. Have I verified any eligibility? Actually, I did not do it yet. Pre-meds reminder, not applicable, and the lab case is not applicable. So I'm technically left with that insurance verification code. So I will actually leave this because I'm missing maybe some information. I'm not going to check this out until I actually add that insurance onto the patient's profile. So basically, as we said earlier, so we have Melina, her appointment on the schedule. Right under the patient card, you have the pre-appointment checklist. You check all the items that actually apply, NA for anything that doesn't apply. And then under the patient name, you can actually click on that bar and change it to seated. So actually, I'm gonna just change a bit the time zone on this account. Okay, that's much better. All right, so that makes a bit more sense now. All right, so that's my patient here. So that's Melina Foster. So she's unconfirmed, and let's say the patient actually comes in. So if she does confirm her, obviously, appointment by email or text, it will automatically switch to confirmed. Otherwise, you would actually do it yourself if you actually had the chance to talk to the patient. Then you just click on arrived. This will indicate that there is a patient waiting in the waiting room that's ready for the clinical staff to actually walk out and take her back. So the yellow walking marching line is actually the arrived status. And then once the actual assistant takes the patient, then you just switch it to seated, and it turns into this green static line under the patient name. And obviously as well, the same thing applies under the actual card in here. So if you're looking here, you would see it here as well. So the patient is seated, and now I'm going to click on the image placeholder. So it's this icon here, and I'm going to go into their chart directly. So I'm just going to review the patient profile. First of all, you have the family. So it shows you how to add a family member. So you click on add family member, and I'm going to add John that I just added as a patient as well earlier. So that's John Foster, and I'm going to click on link to profile. And now John is going to be a family member of Melina. Then if next I'm going to move into the medical history. The medical history is going to show me a summary of what I've filled out on my chart. And then obviously the full medical history is going to show me the full entire list of questions. On the summary page, I'm going to come ahead, I'm going to come in and say that, let's say patient taking supplements. So that way it is a note that goes under the doctor's note. So any notes that the patient filled out on my chart will actually come out as patient note. And then any notes that are written in the office on Oryx, then it will show up as a doctor's note. So that way all those notes would actually be available for you as you're reviewing as well your notes on your exam, on your progress notes. You'll have access to this information as well in there. Once you review the history with the patient, you would click on Reviewed with Patient. So if you see on the top left side, right under the patient name, you have the circle that is empty, so it's white. Once you hit the Reviewed with Patient, it will actually color it out so it blocks or locks the note for you. So this way you can actually mark a procedure or a history as reviewed. So that way next time the patient comes in, you would click on Update History to create a new copy of that form instead of actually doing it completely, like actually overriding the original form. So it's really nice to have a timeline, so that way you can always keep track of any changes that happen, and if anything you want to just make sure that has been filled out from the beginning, you can always just toggle between the different dates of the exam. And obviously you do have the most recent update up here that shows you when was the last time you actually did that. If you want to add any pre-meds, you just click on requires pre-meds. And then if you add a note, the note can be anything from the medication itself, the reason for the pre-med, or both, or you can add any description that you want. And that way it will actually add a circle around the red cross if that basically once that saves. I'm going to do the same thing with the dental history. So again, if you want to add any notes, so if the patient, for example, said that they're fearful of dental treatment, you can always come in here and ask how fearful they are. So the patient said yes to, and said 5 actually. So you can always add the note saying patient has, let's say, anxiety. So you can always add notes in here, and then again, just click on reviewed with patient. So again, it says reviewed with patient, most recent update March 26th of 2020, and this is locked now for you. So that way, again, the next time the patient comes in, if you want to actually ask for an update, it will create a new copy for you instead of overriding the original one. So I'm going to start with page number 6 of the PDF, which is actually adding a new insurance. So if I go into the insurance, which I can actually access from either the left side menu here, or I can use the drop down from the bottom, from the top of the menu. So both works. And then under the insurance page, you'll see the patient has no active insurance yet. And you have 2 buttons. So you'd go for imported coverage. The patient had filled out their insurance already. So I'm just going to click on create primary policy. If the insurance already existed, so if that group number was existing on the system, it will actually automatically pick it up for you. Otherwise, in this case, since that plan does not exist, I'm just going to click on new plan. It's going to fill out my group number. The group name can be, let's say, NASA Inc. And if you are in network, you come in here and you say Delta Dental, let's say PPO. So if you are contracted with the insurance, you'd select the fee guide in here. So as the insurance, as our test patient is going, again, just make sure that you select, let's say, Delta Dental in here. Just gonna make sure we have that in there. Maximum coverage, I'm gonna say 1,500. And the family is going to stick to unlimited. And then as the note says in your PDF, it says to add a deductible or change the defaults of the coverage table, you just simply hit the edit coverage button here. Once it saves, it gives you access to your deductibles table, to your coverage table. And if you want to access any additional limitations, they're all under the coverage book. So you can actually do it from here if you want to. So that way it will open up all the limitations that you have. So that way you don't have to worry about typing them all in as notes. You can actually show them on your screen here. So I'm gonna go ahead and save the plan. Hello, everyone. Sorry for the technical difficulty here. I'll start sharing my screen with you again. I got disconnected. All right, so just gonna make sure that my screen is working. Okay, can you guys see my screen? Just wanna make sure that everyone is, okay, perfect. All right, so just gonna go back to this. So again, just, so the patient had filled in the insurance coverage on their MyChart account. So I'm gonna click on new plan. I'm gonna add my group number, group name. So let's say it's NASA Incorporation. If you are contracted or in network with the insurance, you would select the insurance fee guide that applies. If you're not in network, do not select anything, please. Just leave it blank. Then just say 1,500 for a maximum annual. Family is going to be unlimited. If there is a limit for the ortho, then this will be where you can add it. And then to actually edit your deductibles and your coverage, you just hit the edit coverage button, and to show you the deductibles, to show you the coverage table. And if you want to change your limitations, you can click on coverage book, and it will actually open up the additional limitations like the maximum allowed, the delivery pattern or the frequency, your lifetime limit, downgrade, and so on and so forth. So you have access to all of this information, and you can write it as a note as well in the note section at the bottom here. So I'm gonna hit on Save Plan. Hello? Can anyone hear me now? Yeah? Okay, great. Okay, perfect. We're back. Sorry about this. All right, I'll start sharing my screen again and I'll repeat this one more time. Okay. So again, the patient filled out their MyCharts insurance coverage. So you'll see the imported coverage button in here. So when you click on it, it will open up the insurance coverage information that's coming from MyChart. You click on Create Primary Policy. If the insurance already exists on the system, it will actually pick it up in here. If not, then you just click on New Plan, and you just go in here and you type in the group name. The employer is going to be coming from your from MyChart. If you are in network or you're contracted with the insurance, you would select the correct insurance fee guide. If you are not contracted or you're not in network, then don't worry and don't select anything at all. Please do not select the office fee guide. Keep it blank. Keep it to none if you're not in network. The maximum amount would be 1,500 as per the example in the exercise book. Your family maximum will be unlimited. Ortho, if you have an ortho lifetime limit and you're actually interested in tracking that, then you can add the limit for that specifically. Then click on Edit Coverage. In my case, because I've already added 3 times, so that's saying that the plan I'm adding already exists. So I can either open an existing plan or create a new one. And if I want to create a new one, it will ask me to change one of the three groups, either the group name, the employer name, or the group number, because the system would try to avoid as much as possible any kind of duplicates. So if it finds the same exact group number and group name on the system, then it will not allow you to add a duplicate of the same plan. So I'm going to go ahead and just click on Open Existing Plan. And this is what I've added previously. Again, the coverage book here would allow you to add extra limitations if you need them. So the frequency, the maximum allowed, lifetime limit, downgrades, and so on, which you can add either by group, by category, by group of procedures, or you can actually add it per code as well. So you can actually add those limitations on different levels. Or if you click just outside, you do have the plan note field as well at the bottom here that you can actually fill that out if you need to. I'm going to click on Save Plan, and it's going to take me back to the policy page. You can see that the subscriber itself, the subscriber ID, has been entered already from MyChart, and if it's not, then you can always obviously type it in. If there's any information that is mistyped or is incorrect coming from MyChart, you can always just simply click in that field and type over it. So you can always override it. And then you have the renewal date, which is going to be defaulted to January. The start date of this policy is going to be today. And then you have the assignment or non-assignment, and that depends on your office settings. So I'm going to go ahead and say assignment, just so that we have insurance versus patient estimates in the invoice, and we'll see how it would work in both cases. And then release info, just to add that signature on file, as we said earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and save policy. So now this patient, Mel or Melina, actually has an insurance under NASA. So I'm actually on page number 7 in the PDF, again, if anyone is following up. And I'm going to go ahead and change the patient. So I'm going to look for John. So I'm going to go either by clicking here and typing John's name, or I can go into the patient details and just simply click on the patient's name from the family members. So now I'm on John, and I'm going to go into his insurance. And you can see now there's a family coverage button. So you click on family coverage. This is the insurance that's coming from Melina. You just click on activate policy. You see all of this is already in there. However, just make sure that you always update the patient relationship subscriber. I'm going to say spouse, and I'm going to save policy. So now John has the same insurance that Melina has. So that way you don't have to worry about having to re-enter that insurance again for the family members. I'm going to switch back to Melina. So I'm just going to go for Melina Froster. And for any of our expert users, I'm sure everyone has noticed that when you change your patient now, the actual page remains on the page that you were on previously, so it doesn't actually go back to the patient profile. So hopefully that will help reduce the amount of clicks that you were doing previously. So moving on with the exercises, you have the ancillary tests. So we're going to start with the radiographs. So I'm going to go into radiographs. I'm going to create new series. And then I'm going to click on the Pano box. I have a series of images already ready for me. So I'm going to go ahead and say panoramic X-ray. So if you do have them already on your desktop saved or in a folder on your computer, then that's where you would actually get them from. And again, if you are acquiring through Oryx Imaging, then you don't have to worry about uploading the images. They'd automatically get dropped into the acquired tab for you. Next, moving into the photos section. So ancillary, again, tests, photos. And I'm going to show you how to do both ways. So if you click on create new series, if you click on, let's say, the full face, full smile, I'm going to go to photos, and I have a full face image in here. So that's one way how to do it. The other way would be to just simply go into your folder. I'm just going to open this up. X-rays and photos, and then I can just simply select all of this, drag it into that right-hand side. I have all those thumbnails in here, and then I can drag those one by one into their correct spots. So for example, this is my full smile, my repose, and then I have left, right MIP, and retracted, and then finally my arches in here. So these would be my my photos. So again, those are photos that I've acquired using an SLR camera. And if you are using Oryx Cam or the app on your phone, then it will automatically populate this page, so you don't have to worry about actually uploading them. So I'm going to move on from here to the exam. So starting with the radiographic exam, we're going to start by clicking on Start Exam, and it will actually add a new exam with today's date for you. So general tooth survey, missing teeth, there's 1, 21, and 32. So it's 1, and then 21, and then 32. And then you just go either by clicking on missing, or you can say for non-functional reasons, I'm going to go for biomechanical, for example, and it will remove them off the chart for you. So again, for any of our existing users, I think you guys have noticed that now the X's are actually in blue and not red anymore. So that's another change that we've done. And I know it's been a bit confusing for some people, so this hopefully will help as well clarify that. Under the coronal tooth structure, there is no significant findings, so I can check no findings. Under the radicular tooth structure as well, it says no findings. And then supporting structure, generalized horizontal bone loss is less than 2. So I'm just going to go into here and say less than 2. Again, for anyone who's following up on the PDF, it's on page 8 of the exercises. So that is the radiographic exam. Moving into the TMJ. Start exam. And range of motion, the maximum opening is 46. My deviation is no. Restricted horizontal movement, no. I have muscle evaluation, no to tenderness and negative immobilization test. Joint sound, no. And the load test is negative. Moving to the head and neck, start exam, just to show that you've actually done this evaluation. And then you just click on no significant findings if there is nothing worth mentioning in here. Moving into the tooth structure, there are no lesions to chart, so you're good to go. There are no watches. And then existing restorations, we have a bit. So tooth number 2 has an OL. Tooth number 3 has an OL amalgam, and tooth number 14 has an OL amalgam, and tooth number 15 has an OL amalgam. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually click on 2, 3, 14, and 16, sorry. It's going to find a 15, sorry. And it's going to be OL, and I click on the amalgam icon in here. If you look at the exercise, it says that all the isthmus width is less than 1/3, except the one on tooth number 15, which is 27 international numbering, is actually 1/3 to half. So I'm just going to click outside to deselect those. I'm going to click on tooth number 15 and say it's 1/3 to half. Then I have tooth number 16 has only an occlusal, so I'm going to go for 16, O, and then occlusal amalgam. And tooth number 16 has, again, less than 1/3. Tooth number 17 has a BO. Tooth number 18 and 19 has a BO. So I'm going to go tooth 17, 18, 19, B, O, and then again, it's amalgam. So I'm going to click on the amalgam icon, and they're all less than 1/3. Then finally, I have tooth number 29 that has a DO, which I can use the shortcut here instead of clicking on 2 buttons. So I can say DO, and tooth number 29 has an amalgam. Isthmus width is moderately small, basically less than 1/3, but there is an overhang basically concern. So these are my concerns down here. So you can either click on the overhang by clicking on this icon here, or I can double click or right click on the actual tooth on the left side, and then I have the concerns and I can update it from here. So whichever is faster, whichever is easier for you to find, whichever you feel is basically the flow that you want to use, then you can use either or, they're both the same. Tooth number 30 has an indirect metal ceramic crown. So I'm going to click on number 30, and 31 as well has a metal ceramic crown. So I'm going to click on the second tooth, and this is my metal ceramic. I'll click on that and it will add them in here. So again, if there are any concerns at all, you can chart them into this, into those concerns or into those restorations using those icons in here. Next on our list of conditions is wear. So I'm going to use my upper anterior shortcut to select all the teeth on the top. So it says that I have a wear not matching opposing dentition from 6 to 11 that is less than 2 millimeters. So I'm going to scroll down here. Actually, it's more than 2 millimeters. So I'm going to go in here and click on not matching opposing dentition. So you have the wear matching opposing dentition is the first one. Not matching is the second one, which is now divided into attrition and abnormal attrition versus abrasion and erosion. So I'm going to click on the not matching and I'm going to say less than 2. And I'm going to click on chemically mediated cause, which the patient has actually said already that they have had thinner teeth in the last 5 years. And then the cervical has no findings and we have no concerns as well, so we don't have to chart any of that. So we're done with the tooth structure. Moving into the morphological exam. Start morpho exam. Canine classification is class 1 for the right, class 2 for the left. Posterior crossbite is none. Overbite is 0. Overjet is 1. Then I have my molar classification. I have 1 right, 2 left again. Anterior shape is rectangular. This is, I think, a small change. Acceptable in the midline, and axial inclination is vertical in the face. With respect to the tooth position, it's going to be no findings, so it automatically will fill those in as none for you. Next is going to be the perio. Start perio exam. Using the gear icon on the far right here, we're going to default the probe to 3, 2, 3, and then click on set. I'm going to leave the recession empty. I'm going to add a bleeding only for the middle one if my patient has a lot of bleeding, so I'm going to click set here. And now I'm going to hit close, and it's actually going to pre-fill everything that we just entered together. So now let's overwrite some of those default values. So on tooth number 3, 4, we have a probing of 434. So I'm going to click on the tooth. I'm going to say 434. And tooth number 4 as well is going to 434 for both the facial. And then I'm going to go to 12 and 13, and that's 434 as well. Then moving to the lingual, again, same teeth. So I'm going to just click here, and it's going to be 333, 333, and then again 4 and 3. So these are my upper teeth. I have a recession on tooth number 23, 25, and 30 of 1 millimeter facial. So again, tooth number 3, I have 1 here, and you can actually decide if you want to be charting recession only for 1 surface or 3 surface or 3 areas. So you can change that from the defaults in your admin side. So I have tooth number, I have tooth number 23 is going to be facial 1. I have 25 facial 1, and then I have 30 1. And then furcation I have on 3, 4, 12, 13. So where is my furcation? That's my 1 facial 1. That's 3, 4, 12, and 13, 1 and 1. And then I have on my lingual, I have, okay, so that is 2, 2, 1, and then 2, 1, and then again I have on my 4, 2, 1, and then again 2 and 1. So as you have seen, again, the furcation is on the posterior posterior teeth. You have on the facial, you have one surface area or one area to actually chart the furcation, versus the lingual, you have 2 areas for the furcation site on the period chart. So if there's anything else that you need to add, you can always obviously add the mobility if it applies. You have the different, the plaque, calculus, and separation. You do have gingiva as well. You can actually turn on and off the gingiva from your settings. So that's something that you can actually change from the admin side. So if you do chart the gingiva when you're probing, then you can actually keep that in here, or you can actually hide it if you want to. So from here, just moving into the dentofacial exam, start dentofacial. So tooth color is not white enough. Tooth position, possible improvement, and you can click on the arrow icon here to expand it. Maxillary edge position, I'm gonna go for modify. And you can see that I have now this blue section that opened up, and I'm gonna say lengthen the upper anterior by 2 millimeters. So I'm gonna say 2, and then I can, instead of clicking, I can just tab through this 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. So that's for lengthening or modifying your anterior upper teeth. Tooth alignment is going to be, so I'm just following up with you guys. So tooth alignment is going to be misaligned. Again, click on that arrow. And then I'm going to say that I have a diastema on the front teeth. Actually, it's going to be on 22 and 23. And there is a slight rotation on tooth number 22. So that's charted in here. Maxillary gum display, I can say significant gum display, versus the mandibular is acceptable and no gum display. So that's our dentofacial exam. So again, for anyone that's following up, we're now at page number 11 of our PDF. So we're moving into the adjunctive therapy. The patient is using a hard brush, and you are recommending a mechanical toothbrush, so suggest it to patient, and you can change the instructions if you need to. And then under the toothpaste, I'm gonna say that Colgate Herbal is being used by the patient, versus we are recommending CTX4 gel, the 5000, let's say. So let's say suggest to patient. So moving on from here into the progress notes. So we're gonna do an exam note. So if you click on exam note here, you can fill this chart out. So you can say medical history reviewed, dental reviewed. You can enter the blood pressure, radiographs taken, reviewed, diagnostic opinion, reviewed, risk assessment. You can actually check those out. And then you click on generate exam note. And it will pull everything that we just charted from the different exams, from the TMJ, perio, the lesions, morpho, dento, everything gets transferred over into your notes. Then as the exercises actually walk us through, it says click on the used adjunctive product. So if you click on used adjunctive product, you can see it actually appends the adjunctive product from your adjunctive therapy page. And then you click on recommended adjunctive product, and it will show you the adjunctive product recommendations with all the instructions that you've sent to the patient. So that's for your exam note. So I'm going to say that the hygienist is going to create her own note for the cleaning. So I'm going to actually just hide this. I'm going to click on Recare Notes. And this allows you to create a recur note that's separate from the exam. So this is particularly useful if your doctor is going to write an exam note for himself with a comprehensive valuation, and then the hygienist is going to write her own note for the prophy that she's done. So she can actually come in here, she can fill this in if she wants to. There is the patient education as well if she sends anything to the patient. You do have as well kind of a small questionnaire that helps you pre-fill the patient's existing. So you can use those. So I'm going to go ahead and say this patient had an adult prophy. So I'm going to click on the adult prophy icon. I'm going to use the select all button here. I'm going to say I did a prophy disclosed, manual and mechanical scaling, air polishing, gel fluoride, 4-bite wings, and I only did a pano. So I'm going to deselect my FMX. Again, this is something that is fully customizable, so it might not be what you see on your accounts. It could be anything else that you've written out. And this is something that I've customized on this account, so you can actually change it in whichever way you like it to be. And then you just hit the generate button. I'm just going to give it a second here. And now your adult prophy basically is in there. I think my connection is starting to act up again a bit. Sorry, I'm just gonna have to refresh to make sure it's all in there. Okay, edit note. All right, here we go. So moving on to page number 12. So again, so this is your recur note. You can add procedures if you want to. You can add description. You can say, maybe, I don't know, patient healthy. You can say 6 months prophy. So you can actually add notes into the description. So it's very easy for you to tell. You can change this to obviously the correct provider. And then whoever is signed in would actually be able to sign their own progress notes. You can add a watch if you want to in here. So anything that would be easy for you to tell when those notes are collapsed, this would be the perfect place to put it in the description field. So moving on to page 12 of the exercises, we're going to start with the treatment plan. Actually, before we start with the treatment plan, I'm going to take a 5-minute break just so that everyone can catch up with the Q&A. And we'll start with the treatment planning. So if anyone needs to as well find the PDF and open it up in front of them as well, that would be a great time to do it. Hello, everyone. So we're going to resume our exercises. So we're going to go into the treatment planning page. So whoever, again, has the PDF in front of them, that would be page number 12. So this is, again, our treatment plan page. I'm just going to zoom out so we can comfortably see everything. We're going to start with treatment plan number 1. So we're going to have 2 treatment plans. So whoever has done the treatment, the exercises already knows. So we're going to have 2 treatment plans, one with the veneers, and the second one will be with the simple extraction and the implant. So you can actually double click on the treatment plan tab here to rename it if you want to. So I'm going to call it, let's say, veneers. So that would be the first thing you would want to do. So treatment plan number 1, upper interior veneers prep and delivery. So we're going to select the veneer quick code from the restorations. Select the procedures in visit 1 and 2 and use the drop-down menu to add them to another phase. So I'm going to go ahead, because of this wear, and we're going to do veneers. So upper interior, and then click on porcelain veneers, and that will go automatically into my visit phase 1. Visit 1 is going to be my prep, and then visit 2 is going to be my delivery. So it's going to be the impression and the seating of those veneers. So if we follow the steps in the exercise book, we're going to select visit 1 and 2, and we're going to go to visit, and we're going to add a new phase. And then again, same drop down, then say phase 2. And that will drop those veneers into phase 2, visit 1 and 2. So that way you have now phase 2 already pre-planned for the veneers. The second step is going to be your tooth number 29 is going to require an endo build-up crown. So I'm going to scroll up, say tooth number 29, and I'm going to use my power code that I have. That's the endo build-up crown in here. You will see all 4 procedures added, and they're all into phase 1, but they're subdivided into different visits. And that's, again, how I have had it set up in my admin. So I have my root canal treatment and core buildup during the same visit. I have my prep coming up visit 2, and then delivery is visit 3. And then last but not least would be actually my whitening. And I want to schedule it. I know it's not going to happen before any of the other procedures. So I know this is going to be phase 3. So I can actually just click on phase 1 here, click on add new phase. So that adds phase 3 into my treatment plan. And I'm going to click on phase 3 and directly click on maxillary, mandibular, and then go for office whitening. And that will automatically drop them into phase 3 instead of actually having to drop them into phase 1 and then shuffle them down into phase 3. So if you select the phases and visits from the very top here, then that will automatically drop the procedures into the selected phase that you have up here. So that's number 1. We're going to do treatment plan number 2, and we're going to copy the treatment. So you just come here and you say copy from treatment plan 1. I'm going to rename it to implants. Oops. And as the exercise sheet goes, it says delete all procedures linked to tooth number 29. So everything that's happening in phase 1, I don't want it. I want to give another option for this patient. So I'm going to go ahead and select phase 1, and I'm going to hit that trash can in here. Then I'm going to go ahead and say this 29 is going to have a surgical extraction and a single implant. So you're going to see a whole lot of procedures added automatically into my treatment plan. So it's going to have the extraction, the implant, the re-entry, abutment, crown, impression, and then abutment, crown, delivery. And again, all of those can be customized depending on what procedures you actually do in the office. So I'm going to go ahead and click on re-estimate so that the system actually calculates my insurance coverage and my write-offs. You can see that my insurance is going to be covering, and actually the system is going to assign a fee associated with only the impressions. The delivery are going to be 0 charge, and you can change that as well from your admin. So if you do usually charge on the day of the seat, then you can switch that over in the admin side as well. So next to the re-entry, I'm going to go ahead and enter a 230 procedure fee. So I can either click on 230 here, or you still have the same option that you used to have earlier, which is the edit fee button that's on the top of your menu. If you click on edit procedures, it allows you to edit the fees from here as well. So it's up to you to edit in both ways are available now. So moving on to page number 13. So we're going to say that the whitening is not going to be covered by the insurance. So I'm going to go ahead and click on visit one, and I'm going to use the DBI icon on the top menu here. And it will update my procedures to actually show that the insurance is no longer covering. So I'm going to re-estimate. And you can see that the whitening now is a responsibility of the patient purely because the insurance is not going to be billed for those whitening procedures. So next, again, if we're looking at page number 13, once the patient decides on which treatment plan they prefer, we're going to activate the treatment plan. So in this case, the patient's going to go for treatment plan number 2. So you just hit the activate treatment plan button on the top right corner, and it will switch that green check mark to the one next to the treatment that has been activated. And it actually as well will have this entire treatment now available for the front desk to actually schedule using this breakdown. So moving in here, so we're gonna look at phase 1, visit 1. On the header, it says click on the pencil icon and rename the visit. So we're gonna click on visit 1 and say extraction. And then next to the duration, I'm going to click and say 90 minutes. And then my note says, make sure patient takes pre-meds before visit. Moving on to the ReCare plan, we're going to click on the gear icon on the far right. We're going to have Prophy switch to 12-month interval. Pano and FMX. Pano and FMX are going to be switched to 60 months. And the exam is going to be 12 months interval. The intervals that you see here are fully customizable again from the admin. So the default, I think, is up to 36, and you can add the 48 and the 60 or any additional intervals that you need under every one of those procedures. On the set duration next to the ReCare, I'm going to say this patient needs only 45 minutes because they're very healthy patients. So that way, the schedule will only block 45 minutes every time you schedule a ReCare plan instead of it taking up that default 60 minutes off of the schedule. So moving on to the checking out a patient, I'm going to go into the schedule. I'm going to show you how to do it from there as the exercises go through those. So on the schedule, we're going to go to checkout checklist, complete and bill procedures, and then we're going to click on complete all and then hit the done button. So that will indicate that these are procedures that you did, and always remember to click to change the status once you're ready. So now we're going to go to purchase products. My Sonicare and Carefree have prices attached to them. So I'm going to click on buy Sonicare, and I'm going to say that the patient is buying 2 toothpastes, and then hit buy. And then click on done again. So once the back has done everything, just make sure that you go to checkout and complete, and that way this turns gray for you. On the left side menu, you can see visit 1, visit 2, 3, 4, and so on. So these are all the visits. So if you just click on that arrow, it will show you what procedures are coming up per visit. So you can always just take a look at this. And you can see we said extraction 90 minutes on this visit. So you can actually schedule it there. So I'm going to go for 1 week in advance. So it looks like it's a closed day. So I'm going to go ahead, just open it because just for the sake of the exercise. And I'm going to drag visit 1 and say, since let's say it's a major restoration, I'm going to drop it in here, and you're going to see that you have a 90-minute appointment that's been taken up, and make sure that the patient takes pre-meds is already attached to your note as well. So that way you have the note that was written in the treatment plan attached to your appointment. And I can see that someone else has done it perfectly as well in here. We're going to schedule the next ReCare appointment. So I'm going to go ahead back to today just because I want to switch exactly to 6 months from now. So I'm going to go in here 6 months or 12 months, depending on what the interval is. And then this is a Saturday, so I'm going to go just to a Friday. And I'm going to drag that ReCare box straight into the hygiene. And I can see a lot of people that already did it properly. And I'm going to go ahead to either select which procedures I want to do, or as we said yesterday, if you actually did click on that compute next visit, it will automatically select those procedures for you. So I'm going to go ahead and say it's going to be a prophy, a periodic evaluation, a fluoride, and I'm going to keep the x-rays off my appointment, and I'm going to go ahead and click on add. And now my appointment is 40 minutes with the procedures that have been selected from my window. So moving into the billing. So now the front wants to check out the patient. So you can either use the checkout checklist here, click on complete bill procedures and click on collect payments, or you can double click on the appointment and click collect payment from here, and it will basically take you into the billing page so that you can actually add that invoice. So you can see here I have a list of all the procedures that were walked out, and as well the purchased products that we've bought. So there's 1 Sonicare and 2 Carefree CTX4 gel. So you just hit the add new invoice. We're going to create a claim. So we're going to click on add claim. We're going to create a manual one for the sake of this exercise. And just click on send to batch. The claim here can be printed at any moment, whenever you need to actually send it out, if you want to actually send manual claims. So let's say you've sent this out and the insurance actually has sent you an EOB with what they're actually going to pay you. So you're going to click on insurance payment, select the claim from here, and I'm going to just simply go down to our EOB. Sorry. Okay, so it looks like the insurance is actually going to be covering actually $30 from its from the comp exam. The negotiated fee is actually $20. So you can change it from here, or you can actually update the write-off, so it's completely up to you. So what you think is correct. So whatever, if you have an EOB that shows you the write-offs, you can do it in here. If it shows you the allowed, you can write it in here. Or if, let's say, there's 0 write-offs, so you can just simply zero this out and automatically just take that allowed up to that total charge. So Bite Wings are charged under, let's see, it's going to be $44. And let's say that again, there's no write-off on this one, but let's say the pro fee is going to have a write-off and the insurance paid exactly as much as it estimated, so you can keep it as is, so you don't actually have to change this at any point. So I'm gonna click on apply. So now you can see that there is a write-off and an insurance payment. So right now, let's say you have an outstanding balance of $203 and you want to give a patient a courtesy adjustment for something that the insurance didn't pay for that you were expecting, let's say the insurance would actually cover. So I'm going to go ahead and click on credit adjustment, and from the drop down here I have something called courtesy write-off, and all of this drop down is fully customizable. So if you don't see the same options on your account, that's because they were not set up that way, so you can actually add as many adjustments as you want to. So I'm going to go for courtesy write-off, and it defaults to whatever is remaining on the patient balance. So I'm going to just simply write that off. So I'm going to say the patient is not going to be responsible for anything. And if you do want to apply that write-off and that this is an accurate write-off, then you can just simply click on the credit adjustment again, and you can actually write it off by default in here. So if you did apply the write-off as part of your insurance payment, it will actually zero out automatically, or you can add it as a secondary like adjustment yourself manually if you want to, for whatever reason, recalculate, or you want to make sure that the write-offs are accurate, then that's what you would actually do. So then let's say the patient's going to give you a prepayment for their next visit. So they're actually going to give you a down payment for $200. So you just click on that piggy bank here. You come in here, you say 200. You go for check, cash, whatever, MasterCard, Visa card, and then you just hit add deposit. And it will add a credit of $200 for the patient in here. Again, following the steps on the exercise book, you do have the finance charge. So let's say the patient had a late cancellation, you want to add a finance charge. So you just simply click on that finance charge button here. You say late cancellation, and it'll automatically add a charge, basically an extra invoice with that extra charge for you. I have defaulted it to $80, and that's something that you can change from your admin as well. So you can default the fee for every one of those options in the drop down here. So that way you can actually add a flat fee for the broken appointment, the NSF, and the late cancellations. And for the late payments, you have a percentage associated with the value of the payment itself that's late. So you can actually change this from the admin. So in my case, again, it was $80. And since I already have credit on the patient's account, I'm just going to pay it off from that credit. So you click on patient payment. From the drop down here, choose account credit, and you'll see it's going to give you here $80 out of the 200. Click apply, and it will pay off that outstanding $80 balance, and now the patient has $120 in credit. So that basically brings us to the end of this exercise book. So I'm going to take a 5-minute break just to review all your questions and the Q&A, and we'll get back to you with everything that's outstanding. All right. So after reviewing the Q&A section, I think the most popular question is about the ReCare flow and the ReCare planning. So I think I'm going to go over the entire flow again, just to kind of answer some of the questions. A couple of people have asked as well about how to customize the period chart sequence probing order per user and as well as per account. So we'll cover that. And then we'll basically wrap it up. A lot of people have asked about dual coverage, and that's something that we will definitely cover during our advanced training next week. It does dive into a lot of details, so we don't have enough time to cover today. So we're definitely going to cover it during our next week's webinar. So I'm going to go back to our schedule, and we're going to do the full patient ReCare flow. So I'm going to go ahead and actually use John, since he's a new patient that I just added. So again, he is a new patient. So he calls in, he takes an appointment for his upcoming treatment. So let's say he's doing a new patient hygiene. So he's coming up for his first prophy in the office, let's say today or tomorrow, whenever the patient's actually coming in. I'm going to add that in here. The patient comes into your office. I'm just going to move him to an afternoon spot. So this is John Frost. I'm going to go in here and go into the exam. So obviously the dentist would do the full comprehensive evaluation. The perio chart will be done obviously by the hygienist. So number one, the first thing that you can do to customize the order of this is by clicking on your name at the very bottom right hand corner next to the support button. So in my case, it just says Evidentia. In your case, it will actually say the name of your username. So if you click on it, it will give you where you can set your PIN code. So for providers, they can set their PIN code to sign their progress notes. And you do have the perio settings, which you can add a settings per user, and it will open up this box here, so you can change right to left. And something that a lot of people actually miss out is that these are actually draggable. So you can actually drag the different order around the screen. So if you want to do facial before lingual or lingual before facial, so you can actually shuffle those around by just simply dragging and dropping them. So this would be per user, versus if you actually go into your admin, under clinical management, you go into clinical settings, and you would have as well the same basically module in here, but this applies to the entire software. So meaning that if you want to have all the hygienists probe the same order, instead of having to do it per user, just do it once on your system. And obviously always remember to hit the save button so it updates the charts, the chart probing on everyone's computers as well. So going back into the exam, so everything's been charted. So I'm going to go into the radiographic. I'm just going to add a horizontal bone loss of less than 2. And that, again, just helps with the perio classifications of the software. So if I go into the treatment plan, my ReCare plan right now has no previous completed dates and has no due dates, because there's no history of any prophy or cleaning in general done on the system previously. If you do have patients coming from a conversion, then these would be actually pulled from the archived procedures coming from your previous software. So I'm going to go ahead and say that actually we did the comp exam, we did the prophy, the bite wings, and the pano today. And let's say you did not do the fluoride. So I'm going to go ahead and say complete procedures. And again, it doesn't matter where you're completing the procedures from. You could be completing them from the treatment plan, from the progress notes, from the schedule. It doesn't matter where you're completing them. It will update this box here. And you can notice that automatically the comp exam was replaced with the periodic evaluation, so you don't have to worry about this. So when you actually walk out that comp exam the first time, it automatically adds the periodic evaluation into the patient's ReCare plan. You can see the pano in here because that's what I defaulted instead of the FMX. I have 4 bite wings. So if it is a child, you can always change it to 2 bite wings from the drop down here. And again, this drop down that you see under every one of those procedures is fully customizable from your admin side. So you can actually have, let's say I have adult prophy and child customized in here, and the evaluations are limited, periodontal, and the comp exam. So for example, if you don't want the limited evaluation to be counted in or to actually affect your interval, what you would do is you would actually go into your admin under clinical management, recare settings, and under your exam category, your limited evaluation here, you just simply trash it out of this category. So that way, if you actually walk out a limited evaluation, it won't affect the intervals anymore of the exam category and the recare. So that way, if I go back to the treatment plan here, if I go into my dropdown under the periodic evaluation, you can see now that the limited evaluation is no longer an option under my recare procedures. And that means that, again, if you do walk this procedure out, it won't affect the interval of the patient. So this is the last completed date that you see on the far left side. On the right side, you can see the due dates. So you can see that I have my periodic evaluation and prophy coming up in 6 months from now. The bite wings are coming up in 12 months, and the pano is coming up in 36, so in 3 years. If that's not what you wanted, you can just simply click on the recare settings. And let's say you're going to do the pano every 5 years. So just update this, and it will automatically just update this to 60. And you can see that now it's 2025, the due date of this panoramic X-ray. So once you actually do this, it would really be nice for the front if you actually could click the compute next visit button, because once you click it, actually, it will reshuffle, sorry, just collapse this, it will reshuffle your procedures into 2 categories or into 2 groups, what's due next time versus what your future procedures are. So you can see that automatically the system had kept the perio and the prophy together, since they are coming up in 6 months and they do have a due date. And then you have the bite wings and the pano. So for example, the fluoride you haven't done yet in the office, not even once, and you want to do it next time the patient comes in, because today, for whatever reason, you didn't have enough time, the patient opted out. So you can actually just simply click on this arrow and say add to next due. And now that fluoride is part of your due for the next recare. So, and this what really this helps is that instead of the front trying to figure out what's coming up next and trying to run back to the hygienist asking if they're doing the fluoride next time or not, if you actually hit that compute next visit that showed up at the top, it will actually split those up into 2 categories. So when you go into the schedule and you actually drag this recare card for the patient that is in here, it's going to drop it here. So just so you can see that automatically the system is going to pick up what is actually due next time. So instead of the hygienist having to worry about telling the front what is due, you can actually just utilize this compute next visit that is on the recare plan. So that way the system would automatically flag those when you drag and drop that recare card into the schedule to give the patient their next hygiene appointment. Again, you have the duration that could be set from here by default. So that means that if this is a healthy patient that you need less time, or if it's an extra, basically heart patient that you want more time, you can actually default the timing from here. You can add a note that sticks to that recare plan for until you actually just change it. You have the classification in here that you can change. And a very common question, I think, is the reset recare reminders. And this only applies once the patient is late beyond basically the system reminders, meaning that if you have set up reminders on the system to go out, let's say 12 months, or actually most offices I think have 2 months after the due date. So for example, a patient is late and they've got their reminders before the due, and then you have a couple of reminders set to remind the patient after the due passes. So let's say after a month, and then another time after 2 months. Once that patient finishes all the reminders in the system, then you can always just reset the recare reminders, and that basically just puts him back in the reminder system, so he receives all the reminders all over again. So it's really beneficial if the patient, for example, was away, he was traveling, and you want them to start receiving those reminders again, then that would be the perfect occasion to use this reset recare button for you. So I think a couple of people have asked about how to set up the reminder system. So that comes in from under the admin section. You go into patient communication and patient reminders. So you have the recall in here. So you just click on settings and you can set email or text before the due date, or you can even set after the due date. So you can say, I want one email, one text before, let's say 10 days before the due, 1 day before the due, and then a text, and then maybe an email, let's say 2 months after, or okay, so it's in weeks. So let's say it's 6 weeks, for example, after the due date. And once the patient actually gets those 4 reminders, he's considered to have basically finished the cycle of reminders. And at that point, you can actually use that reset reminder if you want to. Just always make sure that you select recall if you want them to start going out, so that the system actually starts sending them to your patients. If you go to the preview button, it's going to tell you that this is just a very basic sample. So it says, we've noticed that your hygiene visit's coming up soon and you don't have a scheduled appointment, and and the patient can request to be contacted to actually set up their reminder. So that would be one of the options. The other really nice thing is that if you do have your online schedule set up, you can actually have the patients as well schedule their hygiene appointments on the online schedule. So if they can use either basically a link that you can embed on your website, or they can go into MyChart and they can schedule their hygiene from there. So you can actually set up specific columns in your schedule that are open only to online scheduling. You can set up how long you want those slots to be. So it's up to you to customize it. So it's not like the patient is going to have full access to your entire schedule. You can set for how long you want those reminders to be, those slots to be, and you can actually customize it in whichever way your office needs. So I think one of the questions was for how long can reminders be sent out. So you can create a setting that can be every, let's say, 2 months going out for the coming year or two, if these are patients that you're expecting to be coming in. So, and then obviously once there is an appointment on the schedule that is a recare or hygiene appointment, then obviously those reminders will stop and then the patient will receive an appointment reminder. So you can have those reminders going out for as far as you want to, and for as far basically as you think that the patients would actually like to be reminded for. So some patients, every office I think knows their own pool of patients. Some patients would rather receive less reminders, and other actually offices have patients that really like their reminders to be frequent. So it's really up to you to set them up as frequently as you like and for as long as you need to. All right, so I think some questions have been coming in, and I think we'll be so there's going to be definitely a recare focused webinar coming up soon. So that would be something that will cover all the in-depth questions regarding the recare, the setup, the admin side, how to customize all of those intervals. So we'll go over that. So you'll have a full-on webinar focused on the recare, which would be great, I think, for the hygienists to join. We'll definitely have next week an admin advanced session webinar as well. We'll announce that hopefully by tomorrow. So we'll have a specific day that will have only the advanced, it's just focused basically on the advanced billing side. and reporting. So that would be something that we'll cover. And I just spoke with Dr. Rania, and Dr. John Kois has confirmed that he would be joining us for a live webinar on Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific. So that will be a great a webinar to join. So definitely block that out on your schedules. So Dr. Rania is saying that it would be great for the dentists and the team members because he'll be covering a lot of exciting topics. And we'll definitely be announcing it obviously on our Facebook group and our social media as well. So keep an eye out. And we have as well Sandy Roth joining us next week. So please just go ahead and go to our Facebook group and ask the questions that you would like Sandy Roth to cover during her webinar next week. She's a great communication specialist. She has amazing skills to share with the entire team. So make sure that you ask her all the questions that you would like her to cover, and we'll be announcing her webinar as well very soon. Thank you all for joining. It's been a very nice 3 days. I think it's been amazing, all the turn up that actually showed up. And we'll definitely be sending surveys to see how what you liked, what you didn't like, what you'd like to improve for the next webinar. So please keep an eye out in your emails. You're going to be receiving this survey soon. And hopefully you'll be all joining us for our next webinars. We'll be having a lot coming up. We have some really exciting lineups that will be happening on a weekly basis. So there's a lot of nice things coming up soon. So again, thank you all for joining. Have a great day, and keep an eye out for all the exciting news in your inbox and on our Facebook group. Goodbye, everyone.